We hear that phrase often, oh, it's just IBS.
Yeah.
And actually...
It's debilitating. Yeah.
1 in 5 people have a diagnosis of
really?
IBS.
Yeah.
I think, it's really important that we have these conversations. Like, we don't dismiss this as just IBS.
Yes. No.
This is something that's really important to people's health and well-being.
Yeah. No, for sure. Hello, Jenny.
Welcome. Hello.
We are thrilled that you're on the podcast.
Yeah.
You are our favourite client.
I bet you said it twice.
Don't tell the others. Don't tell the others. Especially because it is IBS Awareness Month. Mm-hmm. So we just would like to hear a little bit about the background of Ferrocalm. We know quite a lot about it, and we find it so interesting. It would be really, really good to tell the world about it. We're just going to ask you a few questions around IBS in general, and also there's a little bit of a quick fire round at the end.
She's ready.
Yes, and they are... There's some questions, and then there's some questionable suggestions from the wonderful Ferrocalm community that I've pulled from our social accounts. So shall we get going?
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you very much.
Just to echo what Sophie said, welcome. Obviously, we know you very well, but can you give an introduction to our listeners or watchers about yourself and about Ferrocalm and how you came to develop Ferrocalm?
Yeah, sure. So I'm Jenny Bailey, and I'm CEO of Ferrix, which is the company behind Ferrocalm. My background is I'm a scientist. So I spent most of my career working in immunology, looking at inflammation within the gut. So why does that inflammation occur, and what can we do to reduce it? Because really the treatments that are out there for gut inflammation are pretty poor. They come with some nasty side effects. People don't like them. So what can we do to improve quality of life for people who suffer from these sort of conditions? I started off by researching this at the university, and then we came up with the bacteria that's present within Ferrocalm. So it's a strain of Streptococcus thermophilus called FX856.
Say that after 3 drinks.
And we found that this is a bacteria that, unlike most others, can survive and thrive in a stressed gut. Now, how many people notice that when they're stressed, it has an impact on their gut? Like, even if you just felt butterflies in your stomach before you go into an exam or you go on a first day or anything like that, it's this huge link between the brain and the gut. And so this causes a huge problem for people who have gut health conditions, because any stress can exacerbate that. But the probiotics that people conventionally use, things like lactobacillus and bifidobacteria, they can't survive in a stressed gut. So when you need them most, they fail. So this is why we developed our FX856, which can survive and thrive in a stressed gut, and it helps to just calm down that inflammatory response and help you to feel better.
But what exactly is IBS? Like, we talk about IBS and we assume everybody knows, but like, what really is it?
So IBS, or irritable bowel syndrome, is a really, really common condition which affects the digestive tract. And it can cause symptoms like stomach cramps, bloating, abdominal pain, diarrhea, constipation, all those really lovely things that people don't like talking about. The symptoms can come and go, so they're not there all the time. People will go through periods where they feel really quite well and it doesn't affect them. But then something will trigger a flare-up and they will go into a flare-up. Now, that can last sort of a few days to a few weeks to a few months, depending on what's caused that trigger. And during those times, it can make life pretty miserable. It's a lifelong condition. So once you've got it, it tends to be there. So it does come and go, so you might not have it all the time, but it is there. There's always a chance that it can flare up. And it is really common. 1 in 5 people have a diagnosis of IBS.
Wow.
But actually up to a third of people can experience those symptoms. It's just not diagnosed as such. People tend to put up with these things. You know, how many times have you been out with your friends and people talk about bloating after a meal? And we just accept that as normal. We don't try and do anything about it. But this is a hugely common thing. So again, like, one of the things that we want to do is just let people know that you're not alone, and maybe you can do something about it. You don't have to put up with these things.
Yeah, I think, like you say, people just do put up with things, and you don't have to. I know we hear a lot from the community about how, you know, doctors will just kind of say, oh, you've got this, and that's it. That's the end of it. And where do they go from there?
Exactly.
So again, I think this month, and just really raising awareness about it and getting people talking, because like you said, it is, you know, some of the symptoms you don't want to talk about it. Some people are quite sensitive about it, fair, but it's just nice to know that there's so many people out there that are in the same boat as you, and by having these conversations we've kind of taken the stigma away from it a little bit more. So
that's exactly it. It's get more people talking about it, get more people sharing things, what's worked for them. It's so important, I think, to just start having those conversations.
For sure.
And yeah, you're absolutely right. People go to the GP, they perhaps tested to rule out anything more sinister, and then you're told, oh, it's just IBS.
Yeah.
And we hear that phrase often, oh, it's just IBS.
Yeah.
And actually,
It's debilitating.
It's going to have a huge impact. And, you know, it might only be something that people think is fairly minor, like having to scrutinise a menu before you go out to make sure that there's something on there that isn't going to trigger your IBS.
Yeah.
But still, that is putting that fear into someone's mind, and that in itself can then
another barrier,
the
isn't it?
systems. Exactly. So I think, it's really important that we have these conversations. Like, we don't dismiss this as just IBS.
Yes.
No.
This is something that's really important to people's health and well-being.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
You spoke a minute ago about going out to eat and analysing the menu and triggers.
Yeah.
Are there any kind of things you should be avoiding in your diet, or things you should maybe steer more towards to help and manage IBS?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no cure for IBS, but making some sort of dietary changes and potentially using some medication as well can make it really manageable. I think the key thing for anyone with IBS is understanding your own condition, because no two people have the same form of IBS. Everybody has different triggers, so it can be really useful to do things like a food diary against your symptoms so you can work out, okay, well, I ate this on that day, and then the following day I had this symptom. So you can just try and identify what triggers your IBS, because it's an individual thing, and what triggers one person's IBS might not necessarily be a trigger for another person's IBS. But having said that, there are some sort of general things that you can do to really help to improve your symptoms. Have a sort of a regular meal time. Don't skip meals, don't delay meals. Let's not stress your gut out by not eating all day and then eating everything in the evening.
As well.
Yeah. Exactly. When you are eating, really enjoy your food. Take your time over it. You know, it's not a race. Don't rush it. Just savor every mouthful and enjoy what you're eating. Because again, that can help your gut to just cope with things a little bit better if you're going at a slower pace. There are some things that generally it's good to avoid for people with IBS. Things like fatty foods, spicy foods, and processed foods. But to be honest, I think, most of us want to be avoiding the fatty and the processed foods anyway.
It's not great for you, is it?
Yes, or not. So it can be really good to find your love of cooking. Start cooking with really nice fresh ingredients. Prepare yourself really nice home cooked meals and enjoy those rather than going for the convenience foods, because again, that can have a huge impact on your gut health. Things like fibre as well. Pay close attention to fibre, because not all fibres are the same.
Okay.
So we have soluble fibre and insoluble fibre. So soluble fibre is found in things like oats, pulses, carrots and linseeds, peeled potatoes as well. And that soluble fibre can be really beneficial to your gut health. On the flip side of that, insoluble fibre found in things like wheat and bran can exacerbate symptoms. So it's best to stick to more the soluble fibres than the insoluble fibres. Controversially, it's also advised to limit fruit intake. So no more than 3 pieces of fruit.
Oh wow.
5 a day.
Yeah, exactly. So try swapping out your fruit for some veggie sticks, things like that. If you use carrots, then that's a soluble fibre source as well. So it ticks 2 boxes in one go.
Yeah.
So it's It's all about trying to have a healthy, balanced diet, which we know can be difficult. But by making small changes, you can have a big impact on your gut health. If you suffer more severely, then there is something called the low FODMAP diet. So FODMAPs are a specific type of carbohydrate, and they can exacerbate IBS, so they can make your symptoms feel worse. A low FODMAP diet is a really restricted diet which cuts out these FODMAPs. Now, the idea is that this is supposed to be a short-term thing. So you may go on this diet for 2 weeks and then start to introduce FODMAPs back into your diet so you can help identify which are the ones that trigger you, and you can eliminate those going forwards. I'd say a low FODMAP diet is something that's best followed with the advice of a dietitian, but it is something that can be there to help if you suffer from a more extreme form of IBS. Tea and coffee, caffeine isn't always a friend for IBS, so trying to limit that, and alcohol also doesn't really help IBS. Herbal teas are great, herbal teas are really good. Things like peppermint tea, that's an antispasmodic, can help to reduce the spasms in your gut, so that's really good. Ginger's really good for any sort of upper GI, things like nausea as well, so
cool.
That's good.
Jenny has actually got an ebook as well with a lot of this
slight plug,
a lot of this information in it, which you might see on your socials. So be sure to download that, because it's got all these kind of useful tips and tricks as well. So
super helpful. Moving on to kind of like sleep and exercise. Obviously, we're talking about balanced lifestyle and balanced diet, so I'm sure that this plays a pivotal kind of role. But kind of. Can it help, and how much exercise, etc.?
So there is some recent trial evidence that shows that exercise can be really beneficial to improve IBS, particularly if you're suffering from constipation. It can be really helpful to help alleviate that. But it's not just about treating the symptoms as well, it's a really good mood enhancer. I think everybody always feels better after you've done exercise. And again, that can help to relieve stress, which also is a trigger for IBS, so that can help to calm down your symptoms. Now, I'm not saying that you need to start running a marathon or hitting the gym every day and lifting loads of weights, but if you just incorporate some new things into your routine, a few yoga stretches on a morning, perhaps a lunchtime walk, anything that gets you more active can be really beneficial for IBS. If we look at the sleep side of things, I mean, like, sleep deprivation is so common within the general population anyway. But people with IBS often report even poorer sleep. So about 50% of people with IBS say they suffer from insomnia as well. And when you have a night of poor sleep, that can exacerbate IBS symptoms the next day. So again, it's about having a really good sleep routine, and also exercise can be a part of that as well. You can sleep better after you've done some exercise. So I think the two are really linked, and if you get them right, then again, that can really help with your symptoms.
So obviously, kind of talking about IBS Awareness Month, we're very grateful to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you.
And so you've alluded to your ebook, but have you put any other kind of marketing strategies out there or activation around this month at all?
It's all about getting people talking, and with our social media campaign that we've got at the moment, it's all about normalising IBS and those symptoms, talking about how common it is, how people aren't alone with these symptoms. This is something that so many people experience. But we're also offering loads of tips on how to manage IBS as well. So the ebook is all about that. It's packed full of tips about how to manage IBS and reduce the impact of it on your life. Because really, we just want everyone to be able to live the life they want to lead. We don't want this to be holding people back. So we've also got loads of tips going out on our social media pages. So we've got some information about IBS-friendly snacks, for example. Got a Get Ready With Me, showing somebody getting ready for work in the morning and what strategies they might implement to prevent their IBS from affecting them so much during the day. We're also doing some myth busting as well, because there are loads of myths out there about IBS. And I said about you getting fobbed off saying, it's just IBS. It's not just IBS at all. This is something that has a significant impact on people's lives. So we're busting some of the myths around that as well.
Cool.
We know that IBS can be pretty lousy to live with, but there are ways to manage that, and there are ways that we can work with you and you can work with us to help to improve your quality of life and get you to where you want to be. You know, we don't want you to be cancelling another night out with your friends because of your IBS. We'd rather help to empower you to be able to take control of your own condition.
I think it's, you know, like taking back control is the thing, isn't it? And like most things, there isn't a quick overnight fix like we'd all love there to be. So it's just there's got to be that level of sort of determination and commitment. And if you do put that work in, you are going to see the results. Like you know, like most things really.
We've spoke a lot about the resources available. Are there any support networks for people struggling with IBS or think they have IBS?
Yeah, there are. So the IBS Network is a charity that supports people with IBS. They've got a fantastic website. They offer loads of advice on their website that's from medical professionals. And they also have support groups as well, so you can connect with other people in your local area. They're absolutely brilliant. Really good charity.
Cool. And finally, as a founder, what lessons have you learnt about building and growing a successful healthcare brand like Ferrocalm?
I think one of the most important pieces of advice that I was given when we first started this was always focus on the people that you want to help. So have them in your mind throughout the whole process. Talk to them, listen to them, find out what their problems are, work out how we can help them in the most effective way. I mean, when we started this, we were thinking, okay, we've got this great bacteria, and it's a yogurt bacteria, traditionally used in the yogurt making process. And we thought, you know, those little yogurt drinks, they're quite nice. We could make little yogurt drinks, and that would be a great way of getting this to people. And we spoke to lots of people with IBS, and nearly all of them said, we do not like the yogurt drinks.
Really? It's a thing.
Huge feedback about we don't like the yogurt drinks. So many people with IBS also avoid lactose because that can be a trigger. So immediately that means that they can't access those. So we talked about other sort of formulations, and most people just wanted a capsule that they could just swallow and get on with their day. So that's why that's what we've developed. And now we've got Ferrocalm on the market, we're still constantly talking to our customers to find out what they like, what they don't like. Is there something else that we could offer them? What else do they need? What are the problems that potentially we could help to solve?
That's so interesting, because I think as your marketing agency as well, that is exactly how we look at the audiences that we're going out to. You know, so the way you've kind of built that brand, it's kind of how we deal with your brand as well, because we've always got the customer at the forefront of our minds when we're putting it out there. I mean, people know when they're being sold to.
Absolutely.
So I think with us it was more like, well, why don't we just listen to the community and see what they're struggling with, and that's how we came up with our messages.
Well, I think that moves us on nicely actually to the next section, where Sophie pulls out some of the comments or questions we've had across our social media assets and various videos, etc. So I'm going to hand over to you, and you can go into that a little
well, no,
bit more.
It's just to start with, I think it's really nice, because obviously we've been looking after your brand now for a little while, and especially in April, this is when we really wanted to ramp it up and really get people talking, because there is a stigma attached to it. Not everyone's going to feel comfortable talking about their symptoms, but since the start of IBS Awareness Month, we've really seen an uptake in the comments on the ads and things, and they're relevant and they're real, and people are starting to talk. So for us, I think that's such a big box ticked, because that was one of the things we wanted to get the conversation going. Some of the comments are questionable, and I've pulled some out just so you know, everyone. I think the trouble with social media is that a lot of people think they're an expert. And they're given this platform to offer advice, which is lovely. But there were a few that I just thought, I'm going to run this past an expert. Everyone
has a voice.
So I've had a look on Facebook and TikTok, and there's about 4 different comments. No, 5, sorry. And they're not really questions. They're just to kind of get your professional opinion on it. So on Facebook, we had a comment come in, and it was basically just just cut out the processed crap and go organic, and you'll be fine, kind of thing.
I mean, it's wishful thinking, isn't it? I think if it was that simple, then everyone would do it. But it is part of it.
Yeah.
You know, as we've talked about,
that clean eating
foods.
kind of. Yeah.
Exactly. I wouldn't necessarily say it has to be organic. There's
Yeah.
no good scientific evidence that shows that organic veggies are any better than non-organic veggies. But again, so it's not bad advice. It's not a cure, but it's not bad advice.
Yeah,
So just,
sure.
eat more fresh fruit and eat more fresh food. So it's great.
Okay. So this was a question that came in, and it was from a lady who asked if you can take Ferrocalm alongside other probiotic drinks. So I think what she was trying to ask was, can you have too much probiotic in your diet to then start having negative effects on you?
It's really difficult to OD on a probiotic. and it's perfectly safe to take Ferrocalm alongside the probiotics. In fact, if you take Ferrocalm and that survives in that stressed environment and can help to sort of dampen down some of that inflammation, then that can allow some of the probiotics to get a foothold as well. So actually it can be a beneficial relationship. I think sort of the only caveat I would say is maybe don't start taking a load of them all at once.
Yeah.
Because when you start any new probiotics, sometimes you can get a little bit of gut disruption.
So this is, again, we can't mention names, but in big capital letters, I take the old-fashioned milk of magnesia. That helps me.
I can almost taste the chalk.
There's
childhood flashbacks.
Cod liver oil and stuff like that, isn't it?
Yeah. If that works for you, then
everyone's different.
That's great. Exactly, that's great. And milk of magnesia, I checked actually, it is still available.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is still available.
Okay.
But it's generally used to treat sort of upset stomach and indigestion. It can be used to relieve constipation, but it's more sort of the upper stomach related things. Whereas Ferrocalm's a little bit different. We tend to tackle the problem in the guts and help to relieve that there.
And then a couple on TikTok. The next one is probably my favourite. I don't know why, I just think it's so bizarre. But take worming tablets from the doctor. It's incredible. No more IBS.
I mean, I'm so pleased that this has worked for this individual.
That's the cure.
That's fantastic. And there is some evidence that there can be links between parasites and IBS, although it's really quite uncommon in the UK.
Yeah.
So again, I think maybe if you feel like this is relevant for you, then speak to your GP about it. It's not going to help everyone, but in some cases, then it may.
Yeah. So the next one for me, I've put this one in because doing obviously all the research we've done to really get into the heads of the people we want to talk to. Unfortunately for women, we are more likely to develop these stomach issues.
Yes.
I know there's a proper word,
gastrointestinal disturbance.
That's
Yeah.
You should let her try.
Just say GI.
GI. So the men do suffer from IBS, but we are seeing that it's a lot more female skewed.
Yeah.
And a lady asked about, do you see a lot of endometriosis and IBS links? I know it's obviously different parts of the body, but I just thought that was quite interesting.
Yeah, it's different conditions, but there is definitely a link between endometriosis and IBS. So women with endometriosis are 3 times more likely to have IBS than those who don't have endometriosis. I know, just in case endometriosis isn't enough on its own, then you're 3 times more likely to have IBS. And if you don't have endometriosis, similarly, women with IBS are more likely to suffer from menstrual problems.
Right.
Yeah.
So they're different conditions, but there is that link there, and they share lots of common symptoms as well. So abdominal pain, cramping, bloating, diarrhea,
all the good
constipation. You can get them with both endometriosis and IBS. So it can be tricky to tell them apart, but again, speak to GP about getting the most appropriate care for your individual conditions.
Could you safely take Ferrocalm if you were an endo sufferer?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
absolutely.
I said quick fire, but it was just a general chat. But no, that was really, really helpful, really insightful. And the thing I love about you, Jenny, is that you really lay it out in kind of layman's terms with people as well, because we know how scientific it is, and you know, I think a lot of people do get overwhelmed with all the sort of jargon out there about it. So thank you so much for keeping it kind of like, this is it, what it is, this is what you can do kind of thing.
That's okay.
So we heard from a little birdie this week that someone might be on Sky News next week.
Big news.
Yes, Tuesday morning next week. I'll be on there talking about IBS and IBS Awareness Month.
Amazing.
That's super exciting. Huge congratulations.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We will be tuning in.
Thank
Yes,
you.
put it on the big screen.
Yeah. And finally, kind of, where would you sort of let people know to stay in touch and stay connected and updated with all like Ferrocalm latest news and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can check out our website, which is ferrocalm.com. You can sign up to our newsletter there to receive all our latest news straight into your inbox. Or if you want to get involved with the conversation, join us on social media, on Facebook, Instagram or TikTok, and get involved.
Amazing. Also, can I add, if you sign up to newsletter as well, you get 25%.
You do. You get 25%
off
off your first order if you sign up to the newsletter. Yeah.
So,
there you go.
You don't want to miss that. Jenny, thank you so much for coming on as our first podcaster.
Clickable.
Now we have a name for it.
Well, I feel honoured. Thank you very much for having me.
Lovely to see you as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Cheers.